Hello, I'm Sandra, and I'm an intern at UCED, a graduate student of social work at Arizona State University.
Thank you, Sandra. And we also have Melissa with us, Melissa Calderon, and she'll be introducing herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Calderon. I am the catering manager at Westminster Village Retirement Community in Scottsdale.
Thank you, Melissa. We're very appreciative to have you on to assist us today. We thought it would be really helpful to be able to get an employer's perspective as well on the resumes that you folks are seeing when folks are looking for work, and trying to figure out the proper way to be able to list all those, good characteristics about themselves to find work. So thank you for being here to help out. Yeah. So just as we always do, everybody, and as you know, I'm Wendy Warren. I'm the statewide project coordinator for our project here, Career Pathways to Arizona's Future. And we've continued to do a number of these webinars. And today we're going to have Sandra take us through her PowerPoint. We always want you guys to ask questions. So either raise your hand or pop in on the chat, and off and on. We will have an opportunity to hear all of the wonderful things you guys have to share, and all of your questions as well. So without further ado, at this point, Sandra, we're going to give you the floor.
All right. Well, hello and good morning. Today, I'd like to talk with you about your resume. Your resume presents good things you do and wonderful things about you all on one page. So what is a resume? Well, a resume is a living document, and it is full of information about your abilities and experiences. A living document means that it is always updated and edited. That means you take information out and put other information in. Your guidance counselor can help you with resume editing. And also there's a link which we will share with you at the end of this presentation, which has information about editing your resume, about the latest resume requirements. Are there any questions? Like Wendy?
Not as of right now. I'll see any hand raise.
Okay, so let's do a Mentimeter. And what do you know about resumes? Typing into this Mentimeter? Anything?
Yep, so we're looking
type your responses into the chat box as well.
So what we were looking for on this side, folks, is before we begin offering you information, we're just kind of curious. What do you know about resumes already? What have you heard about them? What do you think you would use them for? Do you have any information about them that you want to put in here? So in the chat, Maria has said that a resume is where you list past work history. So yes, thank you, Maria. That's absolutely right. And then we'll also be talking with you guys about if you haven't had past work history before, how do you develop a resume if you don't have that past work history? So there's other ways to be able to get around that, and we'll be sharing that also. So I'm not sure if any offering answers.
Give folks a moment to, get onto menti.com and then type in the code. So this Mentimeter kind of came up real quick.
Yeah, right.
But coming in, look at that.
Yay. Great. So past community service. Giving information for a job, your education.
And there are for information, that's a good one too.
It's what you can do.
Mhm. In your past work history and selling yourself, that's a good one too.
Definitely helpful for getting a job.
Past,
What are your skills?
oh, sorry.
Go right ahead, Sandra.
Oh, no, I just saw in there, it says past community service. That's a good one.
I like to hear that folks have done that community service. It's a great way to be able to get some experience and build some references before applying.
And networking, right, Wendy?
That's right. And we've had our networking webinar, and we talked about that. And so it is another opportunity for being able to develop references and networking. Try your best and make it. That's perfect. That's right. It's about me. This is true. It's an opportunity for you folks to be able to write information down all about yourself, to give a little snippet to an employer. There for information.
Current certifications is a good one. They're all good.
You guys are wicked smart. That's for sure. My Mainer came out a little bit on that. Okay. There for information. Copy to interview. One thing, as far as that copy to interview, it can be very helpful when you have an interview to take your resume with you, because you can refer to that to help you out when you're in that interview. And I see Melissa shaking her head. Yes, that's something that can be very helpful for folks when you're in that interview, to be able to refer to those things that you've listed on that resume. You can get nervous during that interview and at times forget what you want to share, and you can just use that as a reference point to help you along.
And also you might want to leave your resume with the employer when you're having your interview.
Yep. Okay, I think we've gotten a good number of responses here. We could probably move ahead. Thank you all for participating. It's good to know where you're at with this.
Absolutely. So let's watch a short video about the purpose of a resume.
Hi, my name is Sarah. As a career educator, I help a lot of students with their resume. The purpose of a resume is to highlight your most relevant and important experiences, skill sets, and accomplishments. Your resume is a living document that over time will be used for a variety of reasons. When applying to a company, a well-written and tailored resume will land you an interview. In addition to potential employers, resumes may be submitted to apply to graduate school, scholarships, or when asking someone to serve as professional reference. The reason you are writing a resume will dictate what information is relevant and the structure to fit to the reader's needs. Your resume should make an impression. The reader should be able to quickly identify the value your experiences, skills, and accomplishments bring to the table.
So what stood out to you in that video? Wendy, can you help me if anybody responds? Tell me. What stood out to anybody in that video? You can type it in the chat box. What did you learn from that video?
to in this classroom?
Okay, we would love to hear you. We can hear you. Feel free to share.
It's about what I learned about is about getting your scholarship and your high school diploma mixed in there.
I had trouble hearing all of what you were saying. I heard you mention the high school diploma, and you would list that. Oh,
So
here she comes.
it's about like what I learned about it is that you have to have a scholarship and your high school diploma to mix that with it.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yes, adding that information that if you've gotten scholarships, honors, if you've been recognized in any way at all, that's important information to put on there. Being able to earn a scholarship, I mean, that's a big deal. We want, folks want to know that. That says something about you, right? And then to have your high school diploma shows that you've worked hard for those many years and that you're ready to enter the workforce and that you've graduated. So that's excellent. Thank you.
anybody else, did anything stand out to you? Anybody?
In our chat, we have JC that said, I learned that a resume can get you an interview. So she learned that resume would help her to get that interview.
Absolutely. In fact, that's what we'll be talking about very shortly.
Mhm.
Is there anybody else? No.
No, I don't see any hands raised.
All right, thank you. That was wonderful. Okay, so why have a resume? That's a very important question. So a resume highlights your experience, skills, and your accomplishments. An employer is going to prioritize which resume he or she looks at first. So you want your resume to make an impact, to stand out, to make an impression. So one resume tip is to keep it simple. That means make your resume easy to read, and if your resume is well written, you will be contacted for an interview. You simply have to adjust the information that is on your resume for the job that you are applying for. Are there any questions? No. So let's talk about what to have on your resume. And it really depends on what you're using your resume for. You can use your resume to apply for a job, for a scholarship, an internship, or for a professional reference. You want your resume to make an impression. So the basic sections or categories that are on a resume are listed here. And the first one would be your identifying information. And this would be your name, your email address, and your telephone number. And then another category is your awards and honors. For example, maybe you won an award for a writing contest, or your honors, you have an honor because you're in the honor society. Those are just examples. Skills, you have a strong work ethic, you're a fast learner. And examples of certifications, you're certified in CPR. For your education, you would only put high school, so it would be the name of your high school and the city and state of your high school, and then the year that you expect to graduate. And for your work and volunteer experience, you would put the most recent experience first. And then that would be, you'd put your the job title For example, if you were a waitress, you put waitress. And then after the job title, you put from what date to what date. And after the dates, then you would put the name of the organization and a brief description of what you actually did. And the next category would be your hobbies and activities. For example, maybe you like to play chess, or you're good at basketball, you're on the track team. Those are examples. And now, if we're on the next slide, we're going to see all of these categories that I just talked about. Wait a minute, can we go back, please? We're going to see all of these categories on an actual example of a resume. Does anybody have any questions? No, all right. So this is an example of what I was just talking about with all the categories, and what it would be the identifying information that you see here on this resume. I can't see if anybody's answering. Wendy, is anybody?
Were you asking them to share with you which piece is the identifying information on the resume?
I asked, what is the identifying, what do they see for identifying information on this resume?
Okay. Okay. So does anybody want to either raise their hand and share, when you look at the resume, what part of this is identifying something? Identifying you? Or where is that portion of the resume? We have a hand raised. JC, yes?
For information, like the address and stuff.
The address, yeah, the person's address, their
and
email.
And the
The
number?
email. It's the email and the phone number and the name. It used to be that you would put your street address, but that is no longer so, and only your phone number and your email address is necessary now.
Okay.
Thank you, JC. You were absolutely correct.
It's Jace.
Jace. Thank you for correcting me. I'll remember that. Jace, I like that name.
Thank you.
So on this resume, what skills do you see? What skills are on this resume? For some reason, I cannot see who's responding.
That's okay.
Yes, okay.
So we have, let's see, in our chat box, Sandra says awards, skills, certifications, education, work and volunteer experience, hobbies and activities. Michaela said education.
Why is it important to put those skills on this resume?
Does anybody want to answer that question? Why is it important that we do have skills listed? What would be the purpose of that part when we're sharing our resume with folks? It shows what kind of worker you will be. Yes, Sandra, very good. That's absolutely right. It helps us to learn what kind of a worker that you're going to be.
That's a perfect answer.
They also want to know what to know about you, of those skills you can do.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Does anybody else have any comment about that? No? Okay. So which, under the work and volunteer experience, which one is the most recent?
In the chat, I'm also going to add that Melissa just shared, it helps employers gauge what you already know that will help you in the job that you're applying for. And that lets them know how much they need to offer for training. And if you're coming in, with a lot of knowledge already about that job and have experience, or is it something that's totally new? And that's
Sure.
important for them to know as they build their teams.
So which is the most recent work experience or volunteer or in that category?
Maria stated lifeguard.
Yes, lifeguard is. And lifeguard is the very first work experience that is listed, because lifeguard is the very first work experience listed, because you are to put the most recent work experience first in that on your resume, and then after that the next most recent, and that is the order that you would put those in. So under hobbies and activities, what do you see there? Well, and when we ask this, you can be thinking about what you would put for your own hobbies and activities in your resume. Why do you think that we would put that on a resume?
We'll give you a second to be able to add it into the chat if you're typing. Or just raise your hands. Does anybody have any ideas about that? Why is it that we want to add our hobbies onto a resume? What is it why would an employer want to know what you do in your spare time for a hobby if you're applying for a job for work? Any thoughts on why it is that that's important? Because it does make a difference. And if not, then we're going to be sharing that information with you. So Sandra, maybe you want to let them know why.
Sure. Or shall we give them a few more minutes?
I think that we're good.
Oh, okay. Well, one good reason to share your hobbies and activities or things, whatever you do in your spare time, is so that the employer knows that you're a well-rounded person and knows a little bit more about you.
And why is it that it would be important for them to be well-rounded, Sandra? What makes that so important?
It's important. It helps the employer know you better, to know that you're going to, it'll help them know that you'll be a good fit for the position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because it shows, like you had mentioned, the well-roundedness. It shows that you have a lot of different interests. It helps the employer to have an idea as to how well you're going to fit with the rest of their team, also based on the different interests and items that you like to do in your spare time. It shows that you are always working to grow and improve and do something else, other than maybe just sit home and watch TV. It shows that you're working to improve yourself and better yourself. And that says something about you to an employer. Chances are, if you do that in your own life, work to improve yourself, then when you're on the job, that's going to show that chances are you're going to work your hardest on a job too, because you're interested in doing well and expanding your knowledge.
It helps them get to know you better as a person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent.
Well, that wraps up my presentation. Thank you, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions?
Melissa has her hand up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to add that adding in those hobbies and activities also shows that you're dedicated to something, which is something that employers also want to see, is that you can be dedicated to something and that you enjoy doing something.
Thank you.
Mhm. Excellent. And I think our next slide, the last one, offers us information. There's some resources there. So some of the information that we shared with you today has come from Balance Careers, which is a website that I was able to come up with that is specific to high school. They give a lot of information specific for high school students, which is really helpful. And then the other resource is with the student engagement and career development, and that's here at the university. But they have a lot of information that you can access on their website, even if you're not a student of the university. There are still resources available there for you. Melissa, you have your hand raised. And at this point, yeah, you can feel free to share with us all of the information you would like to, Melissa. We can close the, stop the share of the screen, kind of see each other and just have some conversation. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
So what I'm curious about, everybody, is now that we have an opportunity with Melissa here as an employer with us, we're going to give her a chance to just share some information with you about what it is she looks for. And it's your chance to be able to ask questions to an employer about work, about resumes, and about that process. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you. So typically, like we had said at the beginning, we like to see clear, very organized resumes. So it's easier for us to kind of follow along with where you've been and where you'd like to go. Obviously, the contact information is really important, just making sure that all of that information is up to date every single time that you update your resume, which is important to do. Every once in a while, updating your resume, even just to keep it up to date in case you see something else that you'd like to apply for. Making sure that your education is on there and the correct dates, and all of that is really important as well. Typically, one page is enough for us. We don't typically need to see more than one page of information, but if you have more than one page, you can also have that on there as well. References are obviously important. We don't really look at references until an interview, so it's nice to bring maybe a few different copies of your resume, not just one. One for the interviewer, one for yourself, and in case there is a third person that joins the interview, it's nice to have something for them to look at as well. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions on, applications or resumes, but I'm open to answering if I can.
You make a good point, Melissa, when you state the fact that your applications, and so we are speaking specific to resumes today, but a lot of businesses do seek that a person also, along with the resume, complete an application.
Right.
And a lot of times they look very similar. The applications do to each other. We're looking for the same sort of information that you'd have on a resume, only sometimes they can get a little more detailed. Do you want to share any information about that also for folks?
Sure, yeah. Typically your resume is a really good starting point for an application. A lot of, like she said, a lot of the information that's on your resume is going to be the same information that you're going to be putting on an application that employers has put out there that they'd like you to fill out for them. I do typically see that a lot of employers do want both things. They would like your resume as well as an application. And if you're doing it online, a lot of places have made it really easy. You upload your resume and a lot of that information just transfers over onto your application. So technology is great. It helps us.
That's absolutely right. Sometimes that technology can get in our way, but there are times that it does make things just a bit easier.
Right.
Absolutely. So this is a chance, folks, while we have an employer here, for you guys to be able to ask questions that you can think of. Let's see. So we do have a question in the chat, Melissa. Is there anything on a resume that you personally, that you prefer to see, that you like to be able to have listed? Something that you tend to look for on resumes?
Sure. Job experience, just experience in general, and whether that's in another job that is exactly the same as what you're applying for, or experience that you've gotten in school that might help you in a job.
Excellent. Thank you. That's right. That does make a big difference. That's important. Let me see. Do you look for a cover letter?
For the positions that I hire for, I don't typically look for a cover letter. But for my position, obviously I had to have a cover letter, resume. I had to fill out an application. So those are things that are important. It just kind of depends on what kind of position you're applying for and if they require a cover letter.
And I realized that we're speaking of a cover letter, but really didn't define what might be in a cover letter, or how is that different than, than the resume itself. Another term we hear is letter of interest, and that is also a cover letter. Can you share with them some of the things that might be in a cover letter that kind of stands out for you?
Sure. Again, making sure that you have your contact information on there, why you might be the best candidate for the job. And that is, even if it's just because you're super determined and you're a really hard worker, just making sure that you put maybe a couple examples of why you think that your determination is going to help you in a position. Also, on cover letters, I do typically like to see when I can contact you. So if you're not available during the day, just making sure that you say, I'm available to speak with you after April 24th, after 5 p.m. Just being this is what time I'm available for you is really helpful, so that we're not playing phone tag. But those examples of how you might benefit the position that you're applying for, or things like that, are important to put on a cover letter.
Things that would stand out about how it is that they can improve your company, or what they can do in that position, right? That's going to be helpful. And in order for you guys to know if you're good on a job or not, or would be a good fit, that's where you would be doing your research about different jobs. Previously, we had webinars where we talked about career exploration and how to determine the right kind of job that's good for you. As you're doing that research, you want to find out all you can about the company that you're applying to, because that allows you to be able to tailor the resume, like Sandra was saying, for the position. Maybe add some of the language that they're using in that job description on your resume and in your cover letter, so that you're showing that you have an understanding of what that job is for and what you would be doing there. Then you can let them know how it is that you can improve their company by being present, by being a part of their team. It takes a lot of confidence to be able to state that, but that stands out, and people recognize that when you do take that chance, that leap and share. So we've been kind of chatting back and forth here, offering some extra information to you guys. So has that kind of spawned any questions for you all about this? I'll wait 1 second, see if we get anything in the chat or any hands raised. Let's see. So on a reference list, are you able to share information as far as like how many references should a person list on their reference list, on their list?
Typically, at least 2 is beneficial. 3 is better.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't, and your references, it's important to know also that references don't just have to be from previous jobs. They can be teachers or mentors, or somebody in the community that's a leader that you're very close with.
Mm-hmm. Excellent point. That's right. Because these guys are probably starting off right now with little work experience, if any. And so, again, the connections, the networking that you've done in the community to be able to meet folks and show your skills through volunteering and community experiences, like we'd mentioned before, your networking gives you that chance for that reference that you'll need to speak on your behalf. So one question I would have for you is, like after a person has applied to the position, Melissa, I know that I hear that people sometimes will make a follow-up call about the application. What kind of a time frame do you look for people to do that so that it doesn't seem they're being too anxious to check in with you, but at the same time showing that they're interested and curious as to the process and checking in?
Sure. Typically 3 days to 5 days is a good time to contact and see if somebody has been able to take a look at your resume. We typically like to reach out to people as quickly as possible. So if somebody were to apply and we didn't reach out to them very quickly, if they were to contact us, it would really show that they were really looking for a position and that they were really determined to get a job. So reaching out to an employer is actually a very good thing for somebody to do.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I've been told over time is that when a person has made a call about applying to a position, when they've submitted their resume, that what that does is if their employer has like a stack of those resumes or it's in a digital file, it kind of brings it to the top of the surface of the pile because it gives you because you're standing out over the others by speaking up and by checking in. And so that's always helpful, and it brings your information right to the top for that employer. Let's see. So we do have a couple of other questions here. For one, what are some things that you would not want to see on a resume? Like if you see a resume that's been submitted to you, Melissa, and there are items there, what are some red flags for you or things that you don't want people to add?
I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, that's okay. We have other questions here too.
Okay.
Yeah, these guys do. They ask some good questions. So let's see. So another question we have is, let's see, do picture resumes get noticed when trying to get into a job? So some folks will end up on a resume maybe adding a picture of themselves up in the corner next to identifying information. Is that helpful?
For our company, it's not helpful at all. I don't even look at people's pictures if they put them on a resume. I think that for probably other positions, it might be something, just depending on what kind of job you're applying for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So that's a good answer. Yeah, it would depend on the type of job. Some employers maybe would prefer that. Others maybe not. So it's something that's not required, but it kind of goes with what the position is.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. We have a hand raised right now. So Michaela has a question for us.
to make sure to make sure it's not talking about your life in the resume. You don't want to talk about your life in the resume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Good
making sure that your personal life stays off of the resume, and unless it has to do with the job position is a great. Yes, that's really great.
Mm. Very good. Thank you, Kelsey. I'm sorry. Thank you, Michaela. Mhm. And we had a question here. What agency does Melissa work for? So, yeah.
I work for Westminster Village. We are a luxury retirement community in Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm sure you come across a lot of resumes and applications because there are so many different positions in such a site as that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mhm. Great. Any other questions from anybody? Raise your hands. How many resumes do you typically get for one position?
It just depends on how long we leave the position open for, but we typically, if we post a position, we're looking to get somebody in as quickly as possible. So it's important to, if you see something, apply right away.
Mm-hmm. Because those jobs can go pretty fast. People are
very quickly
waiting for something to get posted times, and they are ready to submit the moment they see something coming up. Yeah. So timing is very important. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any other questions from anybody? I know that we had that question earlier. What do we not want to see on a resume? Something else I think of is you don't want to list inaccurate information. You want to make sure that everything that you are listing is information which is going to be truthful, that you can speak to. At times people want to, yes, boost themselves up and be able to show I can do all these things, but you got to remember you need to be able to show that you have the ability to do those items once you get hired. Otherwise it won't last. So you want to be very accurate and truthful as well. It's all quiet on the home front here. I see that our next our speaker, Karina, has arrived. She's going to be sharing information for a focus session, which we'll be doing after we're done here. So welcome, Karina. We are right now at 10 minutes of, and usually around 9:45 of, we end up winding things down so that we have an opportunity to get information as far as you completing the evaluations. Let's see. So Karina says hello in the chat. Something else that we had is listed is no typos. So on a resume, you want to make sure that you don't have a lot of mistakes and typos on there. You want to make sure that you've got not only accurate information, but you're spelling everything correctly and you're offering the right phone numbers and address, and just your information is, shown neatly and not spelled incorrectly. So at this point, we're going to be sharing the screen for our Menti, where we're going to be getting your evaluation responses. For any of the different professionals and adults that we have on, we've listed a link in the chat box so that you can complete that Qualtrics survey for us. We truly appreciate any information that you folks are able to give us in regards to our webinars and how we've done. And feel free to offer, throughout the webinar series that we've done, if you want to offer information in that way, not just for today's. We do listen and watch, and that's how we ended up doing this resume webinar today, is we had a number of you just sharing, so how do you do a resume? We need more information. So that's how we were able to come up with this for you guys.